Hi everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what I have here? I have the all-new 2026 Subaru Outback. It's what I call the perfect size utility vehicle because it's not too big like many crossovers and SUVs these days. It's not too small. It's still car-based, so it drives really well. And it is perhaps one of the most practical and the best utility car to have. In fact, I believe that if I have to only have one car for the rest of my life, this might be it because it's a car-based, so it handles well, yet it's still practical like SUV and crossovers, and it is just a perfect car that's also built in Japan. In fact, let me tell you 20 reasons why I believe this might be the best daily driver to have for many of us, regardless of the age, regardless of area where you live. This thing is actually a perfect car. Let's go. Welcome back. So I am in Sedona, Arizona, and it is absolutely pouring rain. It's like a rainstorm here, but I'm doing my best to make this video as interesting as possible because this 2026 Outback is perhaps one of the best utility vehicles out there. It's practical, it's very user-friendly, it drives well, and I love so many things about it. So I'm going to tell you 20 reasons why I believe this is the best daily driver that you can have. And the first reason is the fact that this has really high quality because it's built in Japan. In fact, all the Outbacks that will be sold in US and Canada will only be built in Japan. It's built in the Ota factory in Gunma, and they have a really good quality vehicles there. And this Outback is no exception. So let me do a quick quality check. I'll do the outside and I'll do the inside as well. So I'll do my usual gap test here. And you won't believe how good the gaps are. It's only 2.9 millimeter here, 3 millimeter there with the perfect alignment between the panels. 3.2 millimeter between the front fender and front door, back to 3 millimeter and 3.1 millimeter. And more than that, the panel alignment, panel fit, even though it's raining here, it's hard to tell. It's perfect. All the panel looks like it's lined up perfectly. And I think the quality of this is better than some of the best vehicles I've come across. Even if you look at a $100,000 or $150,000 Lexus, this one actually has a better gap. And it's definitely better than some of its competitors, including, let's say, RAV4 or Honda CR-V. In terms of gaps anyway, this is better. Now, I would say the Mazda also makes really good cars with really good quality. So I would say Subaru and Mazda are right up there in terms of world-class quality control for exterior. And as far as paint job is concerned, I can't do the paint thickness gauge right now because it's all wet. But in terms of paint quality, it's absolutely fantastic. There's not much orange peel. All the paint matches well between the plastic side and the metal side. And throughout the whole car, when I saw it earlier, when it was drier, the paint looks absolutely fantastic. So it's really good quality outside, which doesn't surprise me because, again, Ota factory in Gunma is known for a high quality. In fact, Toyota and Subaru often joint ventures on different projects. And as you know, GR86 from Toyota is built in Subaru factory, for example. But the Sotera is built in Toyota factories. So they are not just sharing platforms, but also manufacturing capabilities. And the reason why is that Subaru factory and Subaru manufacturing quality is as good as Toyota, and they consider themselves to be equal. And that's why they often co-share manufacturing and engineering capability. But let's take a look inside and see how good the quality is. So now I'm inside the Outback. Let's do a quick quality check. I'm looking for proper stitching. That looks really straight. Some more stitching here. Also the type of material. So, you know, I'm really happy to report that everything is soft material, even textured as well. So this is soft material here as well. And even the dash, which is something that Toyota has moved away. They do hard plastics now, but thankfully for Subaru, it's all soft plastic and soft materials. Looking for issues with the gaps, but everything looks like it fits properly. And there's no weird gaps anywhere. I do my usual punch test. Feels and sounds pretty solid. And you can tell that the interior is also more practical. I'll come back to that in a second. But also the stitching in the seats material as well. So headliner looks good too. It's not plain materials. It's got a bit of a textured material. So overall, really high quality inside. Beautiful materials. And everything fits and feels like premium. It's not cheap looking in terms of design or engineering, in terms of also quality, fit and finish. All look absolutely fantastic and world class, as I would expect from Subaru's built in Japan. So right now the interior looks totally amazing. And let me talk about a little bit more about other things as well. The second reason why I believe the Outback is a perfect daily driver and the car you want to own for many years is because Outback is what I call the perfect size. It's not too big, it's not too small. In fact, the dimensions of this new Outback is more or less the same as the previous years, except that it's a little bit higher now. It's about 30 millimeter higher to give you more headroom inside, to give you a little bit more space. But otherwise, it's the same as before, which is based on Legacy Wagon. A Legacy Wagon is kind of compact slash mid-sized car. So I really like the size of the Outback. It's not too big, it's not too tall, it's not too wide. And if you compare it to some of the larger crossovers we have these days, they're just too big. They're too big, they're too heavy, they're too cumbersome, especially if it's body on the frame SUVs. They've just gotten really big. Whereas this one is still practical, still very usable, but not too big. And because it's car-based, it's got many other advantages, which I'll talk about later on, particularly to do with the driving, because driving this car feels quite different from typical crossovers that are tall and the center of gravity is high, whereas this one has low center of gravity due to car-based structure and platform. So those are many advantages. But anyway, coming back to my second point, the reason why this thing is such a great driver and such a great car to have for daily use is because it's not too big, it's not too small. So now let me talk about the third point, which is all the enhancements with the technology. Now, if I go through everything, it'll take forever, but what I do want to highlight is the fact that we now have a full digital cluster that's 12.3 inches in terms of the length, and also 12.3 inches for the infotainment system. But because there's a little bit of space taken up, officially it's a 12.1 inch infotainment system, but the actual screen itself is 12.3 inches. Very easy to reach out, great ergonomics. It's their own software, and so not only is this really easy to use, it's very responsive, it's fast, and in much of a Subaru tradition, I think everything is just easier to use compared to some other brands. It's not complicated. It is Android based, but all the fonts are big and I find it really easy to use. So updated technology in terms of digital cluster, but also infotainment system and also safety system, which I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But overall, the technology enhancements are really welcome, and that's one of my key points. So now I am driving the Outback on a bit of a switchback road here in beautiful Sedona. And I would say this is the biggest differentiator between the Outback and many other crossovers and SUVs, especially if you compare it to truck-based body-on-frame SUVs like the one I have, which is a GX550. But even if you compare it to more traditional crossovers like a RAV4 or Honda CR-V, there is quite a bit of difference in terms of driving feel of the Outback because of the fact that this is still a car-based crossover or car-based utility wagon. It is lower in terms of center of gravity, it has a car-based suspension, and therefore the whole car just feels really planted. So I'm going around some really twisty corners here now, and you can tell the car stays flat. You can really tell the center of gravity is low, so I'm not leaning so much. And just the handling is beautiful. Like, this is not a sports car by any means, obviously, but these switchback roads would be a little bit uncomfortable for larger crossovers, especially traditional SUVs. But Outback handles like a champ. It's really, really smooth. The steering feels accurate. Good feedback from the road. The steering is not too light. And I'm going around these corners pretty aggressively. And wow, it just takes the corners really well. So this will be the biggest reason why you would buy an Outback as a utility vehicle compared to taller, more upright, larger crossovers like the Honda CR-V or Passport or RAV4 or Highlander. And the difference is even more noticeable if you compare it to much larger body on the frame SUVs, because they just can't handle corners very well, and they sit so tall due to the frame underneath that they really lean when you drive them through corners. So when you drive this vehicle, you really notice that Subaru engineers have done a great job in terms of making sure that this still feels like a car, less like SUV, and that will be the real advantage of buying an Outback compared to all other SUVs. By the way, the powertrain hasn't changed all that much from a previous gen Outback, but they did improve some of the tuning and the calibration, and therefore you get the maximum horsepower and torque at lower RPM, and that translates to a little bit better drivability. I did notice when I'm driving this around, I can step on the gas and it kind of takes off a little bit more aggressively, and it feels a little bit smoother as well. Same thing with the CVT, not a lot of change, but they made some calibration and tuning changes, and I do feel like the whole powertrain acts and functions a little bit smoother than before. But 2.4 turbo is plenty of power, plenty of torque. It feels really peppy. Some people may want to get the naturally aspirated 2.5, but honestly the 2.4 turbo is the way to go in the Outback. And I do feel that the 2.4 turbo in the new Outback feels better than some of the 2.4 turbo or similar engine you find in the Toyota. The two are not related, by the way, but I've driven many Toyota and Lexus car with 2.4 turbo, which is a new engine for them, and I don't think it's quite as aggressive and not quite as smooth as this one here. So I think Subaru engineers have done a really good job to make sure that these powertrain perform at their best, and it's definitely improved over the predecessor. What else do I notice when I'm driving this Outback? Well, it's also really quiet. They talked about that in the presentation, where they said they've increased the acoustic materials, they've re-engineered things so that it's more rigid, and I just didn't realize how much of a difference it will make until I've driven the car now. It is super quiet. Like, even if you compare it to luxury cars, many of which I've owned, such as my Lexus GX 550, this thing is quieter. Even though I'm not going to be able to measure the windows thickness right now because I don't have the gauge with me, I can tell the whole car is super quiet. It's probably a combination of the different type of engineering materials they use, maybe the type of glasses they use, but just the fact that they made the body more rigid means the body doesn't flex, and therefore there's no squeaks, there's no rattles, and it's extremely quiet. I am really impressed that this thing is as quiet as some of the most expensive luxury cars I've driven recently. As I continue to drive this vehicle in this crazy weather, torrential rain, thunder, lightning, wow, just absolutely crazy. It's supposed to be nice and warm here, but anyhow, this has reminded me how good the all-wheel drive system is in this Outback. That's my 6 point here. It's really well calibrated, well engineered system, and Subaru always had a great all-wheel drive because of many years of experience in rally racing and so forth. Yeah, but it's really sure-footed. I didn't slip at all when I was driving through the mountain with a gravel road. I think the all-wheel drive in this particular model is one of the outstanding features, and another reason to buy this Outback versus the larger crossovers from other brands. I really do think this is one of the best, most practical daily driver. If you're looking for something simple, something good to drive, and sure-footedness, because that's what this all-wheel drive offers. The 7th point is something that's a little bit hard to explain. It's kind of like intangible feeling of owning or buying or driving a Subaru. It's kind of like what Volvo used to stand for. They were known for safety and they were known for security, and that kind of have disappeared. And I think really Subaru is the one that have come to the top when it comes to people looking for security, safety, and just very much a robust, rugged vehicle that can go anywhere and that's still practical. No wonder there's such a strong followers in some areas of the North American market where they believe in Subaru and they won't buy anything else. And I think that kind of intangible, almost indescribable loyalty is important, because if you buy something and you know people are loyal to it, then there is a very active forums. There's lots of people helping each other out in terms of solving problems, and so you want that community to support you, and I think that's something you have it with the Subaru. So what I'm trying to say is that the loyalty of the buyers and the recognition of the brand matters a lot when owning a car for long term, and Subaru definitely has a strong follower and many loyal owners, so that's definitely one of their strengths. The 8th point is the fact that the Outback represent a great value. If you look at all the pricing compared to competitors, both in terms of the entry-level models all the way to the flagship models, and look at the standard equipment, standard features, all the technology, the safety equipment, and all of the things that comes with it. I think the value has just gone up compared to previous years, and even if you compare it to its competitors, this thing offers a lot of features for the money. Number 9 is the fact that it is very user-friendly in terms of interior, because Subaru kept all the traditional buttons and didn't remove any, so hooray for that. Great design. You can tell volume controls here, proper knob, as well as temperature control left and the right side, and all the rows of buttons as well. and defroster, defogger, seat warmers. All of them has physical buttons, and you can actually press it. So I'm really thankful that they didn't remove that. In fact, these buttons and switches are big enough that you can wear winter gloves and still operate them. Even the shifter is proper, shifting type, not buttons or rotary dial. So proper shifter, proper switches, audio controls nice and close to you. Engine start button just over here as well. So thankfully, everything is physically movable. I can't believe that some car companies even have ventilation that has to be controlled by infotainment system. But no, it's all manual, even though it's updated, and you still get buttons on the steering wheel as well. And even the steering wheels are real buttons, not like one of those haptic type stuff. No, you can actually physically feel it, and it feels really good to press it. Same thing for the door, same thing for the memory switches. Thank you, Subaru, for keeping this traditional, keeping this user-friendly, because this is the way cars are supposed to be designed. There are many reasons why the Outback is super practical, and for sure, keeping the buttons and switches are one of the reasons. Just also, by the way, cup holders are nice and big. It's making sure that it doesn't slide. There's a little bit of a material underneath to make it not slip. It's this way vertically, not horizontally, so as not to take too much space this way. Again, more buttons are here as well. So great design. In terms of ergonomics, engineers did a great job. What else can I tell you? Number 10 is the fact that seating position is really good in the new Outback. They did raise the car 3 inches higher, and they also raised the driver's seat and the front passenger seat 3 inches higher. So we're actually sitting up higher than it used to be, which will kind of give you that command feel that you like so much in the crossovers and SUVs. So seating positions are better. The rear seats have not been raised, so you still get extra headroom. And overall, I find the seats to be extremely comfortable, good support, but also just the padding, both in terms of back and underneath my bum here, are all really good, very comfortable. I think Subaru have always had really good ergonomics, but the seating position and the seating placement has been improved a lot compared to last year, and I find that to be one of the key points. 11th point is something that I always talk about when it comes to Subaru products, and that is the fact that the visibility is perfect. It's great. Even though this is a car-based crossover, not a true SUVs in the sense that it's not as tall as those SUVs, you still get big windows and lower front hood. You get big windows on the side, the front windshield, the back. The visibility is excellent. There's no areas where I can't really see very well. Even if I were to turn my shoulders, I can see both the driver's side and passenger side. Once again, Subaru knows how to engineer these vehicles to make it practical, and the visibility is one of them for sure. 12th point is the fact that the cargo capacity has also increased in almost every dimension. It's still very low off the ground compared to other crossovers, so it's easy to lift up. But I also want to point out this really cool tonneau cover design. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but just to show you, these things are magnetic. It comes off like this. You can also kind of put stuff on top. You can then also unclip this and use it for many different things. So I think this is a great idea because I hate the normal tonneau cover. They don't work really well. But you can see here how big the cargo space is. Now let me get Madison from Subaru to explain how this thing works.
So as Anton mentioned, we have fully redesigned the tonneau cover for the 26 Outback. When we look at the old one, great tonneau cover, one of the best, don't get me wrong. Great at what it does, but it's a bit bigger, it's bulky, a little hard to maneuver in and out, and when it's out, it takes up space. Whether you're putting it in your garage, if you got to store it in the cargo area, not the best. Could be better. We demanded more, you demanded more, even if you didn't know it. So we're here to deliver.
We did.
So what we have for the 2026 tonneau cover for the Outback, it's been fully redesigned, it's more lightweight, and it's more versatile. It has 4 available options. So when we start, we have the tonneau cover, same thing. Through a series of magnets and hooks, we go from tonneau cover to hammock, which allows you to put a bag in here, some gear, maybe something that's a bit more wet. It allows you to use this space a bit more three-dimensionally. Much similar to the hammock we have here, just don't go getting inside. Now, moving on from the hammock, as I mentioned, it's very light, it's water resistant, it's super sleek. Who here has a dog? Can I get a show of hands?
No dogs.
No dogs? Okay. But if you do have a dog, a lot of times you may be putting them in the rear. So with the extra use of hooks down here, you can also transition this into a partition cover. So what
Does
this
this
does,
come standard, Madison?
this comes standard.
Wow.
Yep. So now you have a partition cover, so you can keep your dog inside, whether you have luggage that's banging around. It acts as an extra space, and it also protects your cargo trim here. But say you've got Fido in here. He's eager. He's excited. He was on a long drive. He's ready to get over here and tag this tree. But he's so excited. You know, when you get into him and you're picking him up, he's going to be wriggling around, getting all excited. You don't want to scratch your brand new bumper of your new Outback. So what if I told you that in a pinch,
Wait, there's more.
it transitions
Oh my
directly to a step
There
cover?
you go. Wow, that's
Fido's out. He's
That's a
over
great
there
idea.
doing his business.
wow.
He
This
can
is a
jump
really
right
good
back in.
idea.
And when we're all said and
Yeah,
done,
no, I've not seen this before, right?
That's really good.
since it is so light, it folds right up,
And it's washable.
completely washable, and we have a dedicated pocket
That
for it
is
in the
pretty
side.
cool.
So no longer are you carrying on the big one.
Why didn't anyone come up with
It's
this
there if you
before?
need it, it's gone if you don't.
The 13th point is to do with these roof racks, which are much stronger now, and you can take a lot more weight this way vertically as well as horizontally. In terms of the weight, it went from 185 to 363 kilogram, so you can actually put a tent and everything on top, and you can have a family basically camping on top of this roof rack because of the fact that these have been strengthened quite a bit compared to before. And also because the horizontal capacity has increased, you can attach hammock or other things to tie into this, and you can take quite a bit of load as well. The 14th point is the fact that Outbacks are also capable of doing some light off-roading. Now, obviously, you want to buy the Wilderness model if you want to do more of that kind of drive, but this week we're only driving the normal Outback, not the Wilderness. But even this one has some capability, probably better than most crossovers, because all Subarus by nature have been engineered to do some off-roading. So this one I know can handle it because of the great suspension, also really good all-wheel drive system. And we just drove some torrential rain and maybe even a little bit of snow and so forth, and handled like a champ. So I know the Outbacks can handle really good off-roading. Maybe not quite the same as body on the frame trucks, but for most of you, that's all you need. 15th point is the fact that Subaru will offer its own official accessories, and there'll be many different things to consider. So they'll have that kind of molly pan over here. They'll have other off-road accessories, even running board, which they didn't offer before. So Subaru will offer a many number of accessories which wasn't offered before in the previous generation Outback. What about the safety equipment? Well, that brings me to 16th point, and that's the fact that the safety equipment and technology have improved so much for this new gen Outback. I can probably do a whole videos on it, but sufficient to say that they obviously brought everything to the current standard of what's expected in a modern car. But they also added something that's not available in other cars in this price range, and that is the advanced autonomous adaptive cruise control, where you can't take your hands off. Now, in the cars like RAV4 or Honda CR-V, you can't take your hands off, but it's constantly telling you to put your hands back into steering. But with the Outback, and it's only exclusive to this Outback right now, if the conditions are right, you can take your hands off and keep it off. It's not going to keep on asking you to touch the steering every minute or so. It's not going to do that as long as the conditions are met. So that is new for Outback, new for Subaru, almost hands-free approach, and I can't wait to try that. But that is one of the enhancements to technology, in addition to many, many things to do with safety. So in terms of pedestrian detection, emergency braking, cross-traffic alert, that kind of stuff, that's all part of the package now. And you get so much more safety equipment than the previous gen Outback. They can't really compare the two now. If you look at side by side, the list is much longer on this new model. Now, you may not know, but I have been to Subaru factory in Japan a number of times, and I plan to go there again maybe early next year. And they have a really good, robust manufacturing. I mean, so good that Toyota and Subaru often partner in terms of providing cars for each other. Sometimes Toyota cars are built in Subaru plant, like the Toyota GR86, and that makes the Subaru brand outstanding because I consider their manufacturing capability and therefore long-term reliability to be not too far off from Toyota. As Toyota struggles a little bit with recent recalls, you'll begin to realize that Actually, Subaru is coming to the top because they haven't had that much recalls and their car has been really reliable. So that's also a very important point. The 18th point is the fact that this thing is still very fuel efficient. Whether you take the naturally aspirated engine version or a turbo engine, the fuel efficiency is actually really, really good. Yes, not as good as if you have a hybrid system, and I do hope Subaru will bring a hybrid system down the road. I'm sure they will, or even better yet, plug-in hybrid. But even without the hybrid, even without the plug-in hybrid, this thing is already quite fuel efficient, and so I really appreciate that. And part of the reason why its fuel efficiency is actually still very good is the fact that this is a pretty light car compared to traditional SUVs, which are much larger, compared to truck-based SUVs that are even heavier. And you know what, if you compare it to, let's say, plug-in hybrid, it's also lighter because plug-in hybrid has to carry a larger battery. But because this is a car base, it's not super tall, it doesn't have a frame, it doesn't have an extra battery for the hybrid system, therefore the car is actually pretty light. So even without the hybrid, the efficiency is actually really good. What else can I tell you about the new Outback? Well, the 19th point is the fact that all Subarus have a really good resale value, but particularly the Outback has a good resale value because it's kind of like a unique model within Subaru lineup, but also unique within the whole marketplace. There's not too many station wagon based crossovers. They're all either like crossover with a much taller and bigger body, or they're body on frame truck based SUVs, which are even heavier and bigger. So when it comes to this type of car based, or rather station wagon based crossovers, there's really not much choice. We used to have a lot more choice before, when even German guys and German manufacturers offered wagon-based kind of adventure vehicles, but there are less and less of those around, and therefore the Outback has a unique position in the market, and therefore it actually has a really good resale value. The 20th and the last point I want to make is the fact that Subaru buyers and owners tend to be very loyal to the brand. In much the same way we have very loyal owners of Toyota cars, there's something unique about the Subaru buyers. They like exploring to different places, and generally speaking, they're really, really quite attached to the brand. And so Subaru knows that, and they keep improving the models to make sure that things that Subaru owners like are kept and enhanced. And that is very much true for this Outback. So you get a really strong community of people helping each other out in forums and stuff like that. And it's nice to have that kind of brand these days when so many cars look alike and there's no more kind of brand loyalty. But with the Subaru, there is. And I'm really glad that Subaru has improved this important model for them, the Outback. I love the whole practical nature of this Outback without it being too big. It's not a gas guzzler, it's not a huge truck-based SUV. It's what I call perfect size, perfect value. I mean, for that matter, I believe the Outback is almost a perfect family car, practical car, and therefore I declare the Outback as the best daily driver. If I have to have just one car for the rest of my life, and I want it practical, I want it good value, I also want it to be reliable, well engineered, it's comfortable, good to drive, good visibility, fuel efficient, all that stuff, and still have lots of space and have some capability for light off-roading, this will be it. It's better than big SUVs which I own, like the Lexus GX 550 and Land Cruisers. Those are just kind of too big these days. And it's better than the RAV4 and Honda CR-Vs because this one has a bit of a unique position as an adventure vehicle. Also handles a little bit better because center of gravity is lower, feels more like a car. And yet you're not compromising in terms of the practical space for the trunk area, and even the interior space is really roomy. Design looks good, it's easy to use. Well, what else can I tell you? It is the perfect formula for a perfect practical car that you can own and use every day, which is why I gave you 20 reasons that this thing is perhaps the best daily user, daily vehicle in the world. It's even built in Japan. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please give me a thumbs up, make some comments below, and let me know what you like about my video or about this vehicle. And if you haven't subscribed yet, would you kindly subscribe, because many of you guys watch my videos but are not subscribers, and I would love to have you as my subscribers. Anyway, take care, and we'll see you guys in the next video.